This is the new Honda Civic. Now, you're probably thinking that it looks rather a lot like the old Honda Civic, and well, yeah, it does. While every Civic before was revolutionary, the design of the new version is more evolutionary. Yet believe it or not, all the body panels are new, while the overall shape has been honed using Honda's motorsport know-how to maximise efficiency. The diesel Civic is fitted with these little plastic fins, and they help smooth the airflow over the back end of the car and reduce the car's carbon dioxide output by 1 gram per kilometre. That means that if you do 10,000 kilometres, which is about 6,000 miles, you help save this much carbon entering the environment. Now that gives me a nice segue to talk about the Civic's class-leading boot. Before we go any further, let's just hide this nasty carbon away under this secret underfloor storage area, which, as you can see, is huge. And the boot itself, that's massive as well. I mean, look at that. You've got loads of space in there. And when you fold down the rear seats, because they lie completely flat, you can slide long items straight to the back. There you go. Another great thing about the Civic is that the rear doors open to 90 degrees, so that gives you great access to the cabin. It means that I can remove this snowboard through the door, as I'll show you now. Look. So that was easy, and my edges didn't actually cause any damage, which is good news. And then, check this out, right? Put the seat back, I can actually flip up the base and lock it in place. So I know you could store a plant pot there if you wanted to, or maybe a small child could stand up here, although obviously not when you're driving, because that would be illegal. The Civic is almost as practical in the front, thanks to useful door bins, a large central cubby and a decent glove box. But there are some welcome changes over the old models, such as a simplified dash design, though it does still feel suitably futuristic. Another change here in the cabin is that while there are still quite a few hard touch plastics, there are some soft touch ones as well. For instance, look at this. Soft, soft and soft. And if there's anyone from Toyota or Mazda watching, this is the kind of thing us Europeans like in the cabins of our cars. The new Civic is available with 2 petrol engines or a revised version of the 2.2 litre diesel, which can now do 67 miles per gallon. However, a 1.6 litre diesel capable of over 70 mpg will be added next year. One of the main problems with the old Civic was that if the road was any less smooth than a freshly plastered wall, then the ride would just bobble about all over the place, and if you hit a bump, then you get a nasty shock through your spine. However, Honda, thankfully, have fixed that by using some fluid-filled bushes in the suspension rather than plastic ones, and as a result it's now reasonably comfy to travel in. It's also quieter inside this cabin too, thanks to some improved insulation. However, while the new Civic is more relaxing to drive than before, it still feels reasonably sporty. You've got a snappy gear shift, the driving position, it's spot on, there's hardly any body roll through corners, and there's lots of grip. That said, it's still not as engaging to drive on a twisty back route such as this as, say, something like a Ford Focus, because the steering, while it's nice and light for in town, it just feels overly assisted when you're going at higher speeds. And that brings me onto the Civic's downsides, and one of the problems is one that existed on the old car actually. That's the fact that the rear spoiler affects visibility out the back window. If you follow me to the back, I'll show you another problem. Now, if I just shuffle across, you'll see that, well, knee room is not particularly special, and the footwell, it's rather small, so your feet feel a little bit cramped, you can't really move them about much. But the worst thing of all has to be this. The sloping roof means that, well, my head is touching the ceiling, and I'm only 5'10½". Really, if you want to carry adults in the back regularly, or if your children just experience a bit of a growth spurt, you're going to be better off with a Volkswagen Golf. Then there's the price, because the Civic is quite a bit more expensive than its main rivals. In fact, the top spec model is actually the same amount of money as an Audi A4 2-litre diesel, while this very car with all the options on it is similar money to an A6, which is just ridiculous really. And finally, there's the looks, because I don't think this car is quite as attractive as the previous version. That said, it is still distinctive, and overall the Honda Civic is a well-built and reliable hatchback.